Welcome to Stories with Liz. Today we are doing Aleister Crowley and his short story called Things Which Are an Allegory. The little black demon sat in his corner and grinned. Outside, the toads held ghastly revel over that thing unholy that lay in the shadow of the old cathedral, that thing so lately a living, loving creature, and now a blackened, swollen, and already a rotten corpse. And it lay in the shadows of the old cathedral, and the little black demon sat in his corner in the red light of a dying fire, and smacked his fleshless lips, and grimaced, and aped, and gibbered, and grinned. And then it laughed out loud, and shrunk back frightened at its own hellish mirth, and the thick black London fog shut all the mystery in with a horrid pall. There came the morning, if we can call it morning, when the black only fades to an orange hue, a sickly yellow hue, the hue of the dead. And even under the shadow of the cathedral there came a man in blue, and the thing was found. And men came stealing through the midday murk, and bore it through the crowded streets, where the devil is crowned king under his bestowed name, the name of God. And the liars that ministered to their thirst for news broke through all rules and told the truth about this thing, and they called it murder. As if murder were new in London, where every young life's hope is stamped out under the golden hoof of Mammon, not once a day, nor twice. And lo, the orange has become black again, and the streets of the city are deserted, and the little black demon gibbered in his corner and laughed, and now arose and went out, and he grinned hideously on his dear sisters as he twisted through the Haymarket and marked the purification beneath their paint and the death beneath their dye. And he chuckled as he passed his dear brothers and saw them stagger through the byways. Ha! How he gloated! And now he is in an alley, bleak and lone, and the fog is thicker and darker than before, and silently he dances. Yes, he dances now. He is so glad. Down the streets and calls a woman to him that stands there in the shadow, and she comes and he leaps on her, and he licks her with that black tongue that foams with foul sweat, and she falls still in the shadow, and he licks and still licks with that black tongue, and the clothes rot from her as it touches them. And he licks and still licks while the corpse swells to a black putrid mass 3 times the size that God made it, sprinkled with leprous patches of dead white. And he has finished, and the toads crawl out and sit upon her and hold a ghastly revel, and the black fog is over all, and the little black devil is in his corner and still sat and gibbered. All this happened day by day, and the people were afraid. And the liars wrote many lies and gave much advice, so quaintly worded by their art that nothing or anything might be understood by it. And the little black devil sat in his corner and still grinned. Then after 7 days nothing more happened, and the liars forgot and wrote new lies about other things, and so the world went on. Now there was a man in the city who was much honored, for his name was noble and his money measureless, but he had no character and less virtue, so for these qualities he was much esteemed. And he knew also a woman whose name was not noble, who had no money, but whose character and virtue were even as his. And the generous world thought that the last good thing might outweigh the other 2, for she, with it, could borrow a noble name and gain much money also. And this indeed she did, and was much esteemed of all men, but all the women hated her. Now for a long time she held this nobleman in her thrall, but he, having no virtue of any sort, grew tired of her. And his friends said, "Get rid of this woman, but shabbily, so that you may be the more esteemed by all men, and all shall be well." For the men of London think that, by the reason of the fog, the eye of God seeth not the deeds that are done in London. And so he went on, and took another woman to him. But she, the first, went to her father, and did consult, and he, from the flames everlasting, bid her to be of good cheer. And the room was dark, and the woman grew cold, and shrank now into a corpse, nor was any breath left in her. And her heart sprang out, and arose, and went into the outer room. And the black corpse that lay in the shadow of St. Paul's had been the rival of her, and was now and again some other child of hate, and again even for 7 days. And after 7 days the heart came back, and entered again into her, and the life came into her again, and arose, and went out, and so lived on. Now it came to pass that the year passed by until the day before the anniversary of this first day, and she was merry at supper, and grew drunken, and being maddened, she passed out into the street, and began to rave in the marketplace, and tore her clothes. And the men in blue came to her and took her, for the men of London do all drink, and the women also. But they say outwardly that it's a hard thing, and so appoint a punishment for the poor who are drunken in the street. But for the rich the man in blue procureth a cab, that he may be driven home. And this man in blue that met the woman knew not that she was rich, and so forced her to come with him. But at last he came and spake loud and virtuously, even giving a long moral lecture on the vice of drink. But while he yet spake, the woman grew cold and shrank up, and now there was no life left in her, even as before. And the liars wrote much of this. But her heart had sprung out as before, and went about with its black tongue, licking and slaying. And the liars wrote much of this also. And so 7 days passed, and the woman was buried. And over her they signed the cross, and the nobleman knew that it was she, and over her grave he raised a cross of marble. And at the end of the 7 days the little black devil ceased his gibbering, and came and sought her. But he found her not, for when he came to the grave he might not pass the cross. So he wandered up and down in unclean places, and sought rest, and found it not. And he went to the patriarch of the fallen of London, and he was sad, for he said, "This child of mine has grown to my will, and there is nothing left for me to do. I am not needed here." "Let us flee," said the little black demon, gibbering and grimacing again. "Let us flee away, even to the nearest place we may." "Yes," howled that old patriarch, lashing a forked tail with a hard thud. "Let us out of this fog." For the thick black fog still hung down over all of the city. "Let us to the nearest place where we may find some good to corrupt." And they rose and went through the black streets, and away, away, and they fled very far. The end of that crazy little tale. Hope to see you next time. Bye.